Hello and welcome to this video on direct proportion aimed at students studying for a level 2 functional skills maths exam. Direct proportion is a new topic for functional skills. It's previously been a GCSE only topic, and you'll find lots of other videos on YouTube talking about this, but they are aimed at GCSE students, so they get a bit technical and use a bit more algebra than we'd be expected to use for functional skills. So this video is aimed at simplifying things a bit. Right, first, what is direct proportion? Well, it's easy actually. It's just where two things go up together. So if one thing goes up, the other thing goes up as well. A really common everyday example is buying petrol. So the more petrol I put in my car, the more it costs me. And I don't get any sort of discount for buying bulk petrol. In this sort of situation, we would say the cost of the petrol is directly proportional to the amount I buy. Now we can get a bit more technical and write a formula. So if I know how much my petrol costs per litre, I can write a little formula like this. The cost, so C is the cost in pounds, and A is the amount in litres. C equals me 1.2 times A. We wouldn't necessarily expect you to be doing that in a functional skills exam though. Before we look at some example questions, let's just think about other cases that count as direct proportion. So we've talked about petrol. That's where you're buying an amount per litre by volume, but also by weight. Something like cheese might well be direct proportion. Other examples that aren't about money and buying things, recipes. If you've got a recipe that makes enough to serve 4 people, then if you need to serve 8 people, you're just doubling all your ingredients. You need to serve 12 people, you're timesing all your ingredient amounts by 3. That's an example of direct proportion. However much you increase the number of people you want to serve, you've got to increase your ingredients in relation to that. Another example might be salary. So your earnings and the number of hours you work are an example of direct proportion. If I work 5 hours, I get paid less than if I work 7 hours. Okay, so that's the idea. Let's have a look at an example question that uses this idea and see if that makes things clearer for you. So, the village hotel charges by the hour for their meeting rooms. Stephen pays £60 to hire the orange room for a 3-hour meeting. Micah wants to hire the orange room for a 5-hour meeting. How much will it cost him? So the first thing to notice here is nowhere in this question does it talk about direct proportion. And that's probably going to be true for many questions on this subject at functional skills. You don't really need to know it's about direct proportion to be able to deal with this. What you can see straight away is we know this room costs a certain amount per hour, and we know the length of the meetings. In the example that we looked at previously with petrol, we knew the price per litre. For 1 litre, it was 1.20. And that's the sort of thing we want when we're doing a question like this. What we want is to know the price that the village hotel charges per hour, because then it's easy to work out how much we've got to pay for a 5-hour meeting. Unfortunately, we don't know that. We only know how much Stephen paid. Luckily, it's pretty easy to work it out. So we know he paid £60 and we know it was a 3-hour meeting. So we can see quite easily that we're paying £20 per hour. Once we know that, it's now pretty obvious how to deal with this 5-hour meeting. We just need to do 5 times our cost per hour to get an answer of £100. So that's a pretty straightforward, easy example you probably could have worked that out without knowing anything about direct proportion. Common sense probably would have got you to that answer. Which probably means you're not going to get a question this easy on the level 2 exam. So let's try something slightly more advanced. Jan is a cook. On Monday, she makes pancake batter. She uses, and we've got all the ingredients here, 675 grams of flour, 900 millilitres of milk, and 6 eggs. On Tuesday, Jan will make the same type of batter. She will use 1,125 grams of flour, and we're being asked how much milk does she need. So again, there's no mention of proportion in this question. How do we know it's a proportion question? Well, we're being told it's the same recipe, essentially. So we know, although she's making more of it on Tuesday, all the ingredients are going to go up in proportion. So we want milk and we've got flour. So what we want to know, to work this out, a lot like the price example previously, is the amount of milk per gram. If we knew that, we'd be able to just multiply the 1,125 grams of flour by the amount of milk per gram, and that would tell us how much milk. Again, we don't know this, but we can work it out because we know how much Jan used on Monday. So if we want milk per gram, we need to do the amount of milk she used on Monday and divide it by the number of grams of flour she used. Now, if this was a non-calculator paper, we could deal with this by cancelling. You can see, because these numbers end in 0 and 5, that 5s go into this. So if I divide 900 by 5, 5s into 9 go once, 4 over, 5s into 40 go 8, 5s into nothing go nothing. Again, dividing by 5 here, that's giving me 1, 3, carrying a 2, 5. That's still looking quite unpleasant, but again, still 5s go into it. So I can go again. 5s into 18 is 3 with 3 over. 5s into 30 go 6. 5s into 13 go twice. 3 over. 5s into 35 go 7. Now we're getting to something where I know my tables. I can see 9 goes into both of these. So 9 goes into that 4 times. 9 goes into 27 3 times. If this was on a calculator paper, I could just type that into my calculator, 900 divided by 675. And if you were doing it on a calculator, scientific calculator would give you this answer. Ordinary calculator would probably give you it as a decimal, 1.333 recurring. I'm going to stick with this number because it's actually easy to do sums with a number that isn't a recurring decimal. And I'm nearly there now. I now know my amount of milk per gram, 4 over 3. And I know the number of grams I've got. So the amount of milk I need, or Jan needs, is the number of grams she's going to use times this number. And if you work that out, you'll find it comes to 1,500. And obviously, if it was non-calculator, you could do that times 4, 4 5s 20, 4 2s 8 plus 2 is 10, 4 1s are 4 plus 1 is 5, 4 1s are 4, and then we've got to divide this by 3, 4, 5, 0, 0. 3 into 4 goes once with 1 over. 3 into 15 goes 5. 3 into 0, and again. So that's where that answer came from if I wasn't allowed to use a calculator. So Direct proportion is actually mostly common sense. Don't get scared by this fancy maths language of direct proportion. You probably won't see it in the exam anyway. Just work out the rate for one. How much milk per gram? Or in the previous example, how much money per hour? I hope that's helped clarify what you're doing with direct proportion a bit. I'll leave it there for now.